Good morning, folks, and welcome back to the Isle of Mull. Another stunning, calm morning. It's beautiful. This morning's message from Mull is challenge your balance. And balance is a very underrated component of our fitness and our functional capacity. And this could become really problematic going forward in later years, where a risk of a fall can be pretty damaging to us and quite costly too. Now, balance is defined as how we control our center of gravity or our center of mass in relation to its stationary or its moving base of support. And that's the problem. Our base of support is quite small. And the human body is inherently quite unstable, even at the best of times. And its challenge is to maintain an upright posture while maintaining equilibrium as we move around. We transport ourselves from one place to another. And this ability to maintain an upright posture starts to deteriorate with age, and it certainly deteriorates with lack of activity. So we're spending lots of time in a seated position, or if we develop health conditions, or if we have to take specific drugs to try and combat those health conditions, then we increase our risk of falls as we age. And falls cost the NHS about £2.3 billion at the minute. And fragility fractures as a result of falls tend to cost the NHS around about £4.4 billion. So a lot of money is spent on trying to combat the effects and outcomes of falls. So in the sort of 65 plus age bracket, 1 in 3 of us will have a fall in any given year. And 60% of that tends to happen in the home. So that's normally places like the kitchen, or the garden, or on the stairs. And as we get a bit older, sort of 85 plus, then half of us will have a fall in every given year, and about 85% of that is in the home. And then the emphasis tends to change to places like the bathroom, or the bedroom. And the worst outcome from that is other than the really worst outcome, is a hip fracture. And hip fractures are very dangerous injuries as we get older. Dangerous injury even when we're younger. And a hip fracture tends to cost the NHS about £10,000. So they're very costly as well. And there's the added cost then of a fear of that happening again going forward for those people. And it's quite often that links back into more inactivity. So major causes tend to be, as I said, lack of activity for a while. We tend to lose muscle power, muscle strength, coordination, and periods where we're sitting down for long periods of time. That inactivity leads to loss of muscle mass, and a loss of bone density as well. So if we do fall, we're more likely to have a fracture. And there are some modifiable factors here. There's things we can do. So we can work on our strength, especially in our legs, thighs and lower legs, really important for combating risk of falls. We can work on our gait patterns, so how effectively we walk effectively. Because that little base of support, we normally have 2 feet on the ground when we're standing, but when we start to walk, then we transfer that to 1 base of support for a short period of time as we step. And it's important that we can control that movement effectively. And our functional ability and our balance, of course. And balance is absolutely key to this process and maintaining an upright posture. And balance is controlled predominantly with 3 areas. One is the eyes, so our visual cues from the environment around us. We create a sort of spatial framework of where we are in the world and how we're going to react to that. Our vestibular system, which is in here. So you'll probably know that if you've ever had an inner ear infection, your balance can go to pot. And also our proprioception, and predominantly that is sort of felt through the feet. So our feet take cues from the surface that we're on, whether it's a hard surface, whether it's an unstable surface, and feed back to the brain, and then the brain can make adjustments. So trying to control these neural pathways is really important, and challenging those neural pathways is very important as we get older to try and make sure that we can maintain good balance, because if we don't use it, we tend to lose it. And we're constantly making small adjustments all the time, even when we're just standing up. So if you think about it, when you're stood up, we are constantly in flux. Your muscle tissue is constantly making little fine adjustments to keep you upright. Now, a lot of the time you might not even be aware of it, but we tend to suffer from something called sway. So we are constantly moving tiny amounts all the time when we're stood up on our feet to keep ourselves upright. And we'll all enjoy a certain level of forward sway, backwards, sideways, before that becomes problematic. And for some that get a little bit older, excuse me, that starts to deteriorate, and our ability to correct that sway deteriorates. So the risk of falls, it tends to be corrected by two ways. Now, either we can plan for a change of posture. So if we have a situation where we anticipate the fact that we might be a little bit unstable, then the body can make a plan for that. And we put a plan in place as to how I'm going to stay upright. Risk of falls tends to increase when we're doing things where it's a reactionary response. So if suddenly somebody was to throw a ball at you, or you're walking along the street and somebody calls from behind, and you turn without thinking about where your feet need to be, and often that tilt of the head, then it affects the inner ear response, and that can throw us a little bit off cue as well. So what we need to do is try and develop strategies to keep us upright, and the body has three main strategies to try and keep us upright. The first one is the ankle strategy, and that's small movements in around the ankle, controlled by your lower leg, really. And if let me see, I'll come back a little bit so maybe you can see. Now I'm on an unstable surface here, so let's see, hope you can see my feet. Might not be able to, but basically we correct sway by moving side to side, and this is all controlled by my ankles. The second way we do it, I could probably come forward a little bit for this one, is we use a hip strategy. So if we get a bump from the side, we tend to throw our hip out. So our upper body goes one way, we hinge at the hip, and we stop ourselves going further that way. And the third strategy is called the step strategy, and as that would imply, if we get more of a shunt from one side or we trip, then we step, and we actually physically move our center of gravity to a different place. We move our base of support to a different place to keep ourselves upright. So it's really important that we have strong calves and control that ankle strategy, that we have a strong core to control hip strategy, strong thighs as well, and also responsive thighs for the step strategy, so that if we do need to actually change our base of support and get a foot out, that these muscles will act instinctively and quickly and strong. So if you think about a lot of the work we do in Move Well, it involves those types of stepping strategies. So there is method to our madness. You might think, why do I have to keep stepping forward and back and to the side? But it's to make that an instinctive response, so that we can correct falls when reactionary issues will happen. Now, the good thing for you is the neural function of the brain is what we refer to as plastic, and it just means it can be molded. So we can make big changes if we challenge our balance through appropriate exercises, and the body will develop its balance. Even in later years, it can still be improved significantly. So within about 9 months of doing 2 sessions a week, we can reduce the risk of falls by about 50%, and that is significant. So I'm just going to point you to one thing that's already on the website. Ian Mallarvey did a little strength and balance class just before lockdown, and that's available on our website under the online resources. So if you're someone that suffers from poor balance and maybe poor levels of coordination, then check that out. And if you can start to do that little class every now and again, then that will help a lot. We're going to start putting up some exercises of the day that involve challenging your balance. I will do that today. I'll give you a couple of exercises today that you incorporate in the home to start challenging your balance. And obviously we're going to do this with safety in mind. So we're always going to have an additional form of support there, usually in the form of a chair or perhaps the wall. But usually a chair is a good idea to have it nearby, because the last thing we want to do is for you to have a fall while trying to challenge your balance and reduce the risk of falls. So I'm going to leave it there today. I hope that was helpful. I know that's a long one for a message from Mull, a very long one, but I thought there were some key components there that it's important to get across. As always, if you're watching on the YouTube channel, please subscribe, and I hope you get out and enjoy this fabulous weather, and I'll catch up with you soon, guys. Stay safe. Bye bye.